Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about a Bible verse that really stands out to me that I want to share with you guys. I recently started a small group on the book of Romans, and this is one of the verses that really stuck out to me in this meeting, that really captured my attention, and I feel like relates to all of us as Christians. So I'm going to start out reading it and then just kind of expound on that. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and then to the Gentile. Romans 1:16. What does it mean to live unashamed of Christ? As Christians, I'm sure that none of us would feel that we're ashamed of Christ, but sometimes it can be so hard to share our faith. That's something that I've struggled with in my life. I'm sure probably you struggle with this as well. A lot of people have. Just being able to share the gospel with those who don't know God. As Christians, that's what we're put on this earth to do, to know God and make Him known, to share His love, His grace, His mercy with people. Sometimes it can be really hard to do because either we don't know how to get started or we're worried about how people will perceive it because we want them to so badly to receive the word that God has for them. But one thing that someone mentioned in a small group last week, or this past week actually, was that the gospel is not about us. I think that is so important to keep in mind. It's God's word to us. It's God's living word that's living and active in us. It's not something that we're just kind of making up off the top of our head. It's literally God's love coming down, dying on a cross, so that we can spend eternity with Him. I'd like to read another verse that talks about this and also just kind of address that. So let me just pull that up on my phone. Okay. Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. In this passage, Jesus was talking to His disciples, and He was explaining who He is and why He came. And the same message stands for us today. But I just want to look at each part of that verse because it's pretty packed with a lot of content if you really dissect it and look at the true meaning of that verse. The first thing I want to point out is Jesus said that He is the way. When you have a way to something, it's how you get somewhere, right? If you're GPSing, how do I get to Foxtail Coffee? How do I get to this place that I'm trying to go? If you type that into your GPS, it gives you the way to get there. It directs you step by step. And that's what Jesus is. He's the road that leads us to heaven. So many times in a lot of churches, people try to add to the gospel. They try to say, it's Jesus plus this. But I want to hear a pastor say that Jesus plus nothing is everything, but Jesus plus anything is nothing. So it's saying that whenever you add to the gospel, whenever you add to what Jesus has already done, when He spread out His arms on the cross, He said, it is finished. Whenever you try to add to that, you're trying to take the place that Jesus did on the cross. And a lot of people don't always think of it that way, but because it is finished, it's not something we have to try to worry about or add to or try to work our way towards. Jesus is not about, Christianity is not about working your way towards something. It's not about trying to earn God's approval because you already have that. I once heard someone else say that when God looks at you, He doesn't see your sin, He doesn't see your shame, He doesn't see your brokenness. But instead, when He sees you, He sees His Son, who died on the cross, who looked at humanity and said, I love each one of you, and if you were the only person on this earth, I would still die for you. And so that's the essence of the gospel, right? That Jesus is the way. He's how we get to heaven. He's how we get to a right relationship with God. All we have to do is believe in Him and trust Him and accept the sacrifice that He made on our behalf. So that's the first part, which is the way. And the truth. The truth is that Jesus came as the living sacrifice, that He took the weight of the world on Himself. Back in the Old Testament times, they had the Ten Commandments, which was basically a way for people to try to work their way towards God. And whenever someone messed up or fell short or sinned, they had to sacrifice an animal to God. So they had to kill an animal, offer that up as a burnt sacrifice. But nowadays, we don't have to do that because Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. He was perfect, He never sinned, and because of His perfection, we can have the assurance of standing right before God. And so that's the truth part of it, that Jesus came, that he loved us enough to die, and that he is, as I said before, the way that we become right with God. And the last part is the life. What does it mean to have life? In this world today, we have so many different ideas of what brings you life, and so often they fall short of what God's true intent of a fulfilling life looks like. So many people try to fulfill themselves with things, or with their job, or with relationships, or money, or whatever else. But whenever you try to put something in that God-shaped hole where Jesus should be, you're always going to come up feeling empty. But when you keep your eyes on Jesus and just wake up every morning and talk to him like you would a friend, and have that relationship through reading his word, those things bring you life, and so does just proclaiming Jesus. I once heard Judah Smith say, he's a popular pastor, that it's so important that as Christians we just come together and talk about what Jesus is doing, because he is so alive, he's so present, and he is so in the midst of our everyday life. So, to conclude, living unashamed just means knowing that God is the way, trusting that he is the only thing that we need to get ourselves right with God, knowing that he's the truth, knowing the truth about who he is, and sharing that truth with others so that they can have true life in him. So I just want to challenge you guys to live unashamed, to live in that boldness, and to keep pursuing God if you're already a Christian. If you're not, all you have to do is just say, God, I know I've messed up, but your atonement and your death covers all that. And so I put my faith in you, I put my trust in you, and I surrender my life to you. And just by doing that, you have that friendship, that relationship with God that brings you more life, more hope, and more joy than anything in this world ever could. So on that note, I hope you have an awesome week, and I hope this video inspired you to just live boldly and fully on fire in your faith. Have an awesome week.